Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the pre-market rundown for March 27th, 2023. Can we get this camera to focus in? This thing is going to get the boot soon. But before then, right, we're going to use it. We're going to use it for all that it's worth. Welcome to the pre-market rundown. This being our daily session where we go over any and all information necessary to keeping you consistently profitable across these ever volatile markets. I'm your host, Adam Holland, stock options expert, as well as expert market strategist. And we're here to do one thing, right? The same thing that we are always here to do, and that is to get 1% better. Benjamin, great to see you on here. Good morning. Alicia, good morning. Coco, good morning. To everybody who I saw this past weekend at the conference, great morning. Absolutely still riding high off of that. Getting started a little bit later this morning than usual, but to be honest, right now the time is really between 8:40 to 8:45 when we're looking to get this thing rolling. So, as long as we're on by roughly 8:45, we're still. Can we get the focus? We're still on track. Man, this camera is getting on my nerves. Can't wait for the newest one to come. But yes, Wealthy Revolution Live was absolutely amazing. To be honest, I think that was hands down the best one that we've had. It was just a complete I'm still searching for the words. I'm still searching. It's like breakthrough comes to mind. Outpouring comes to mind. Revelation comes to mind. But it was just an absolutely amazing experience, and I just, I feel like that can't be replicated. It is what it is. It was amazing, right? And I'm just gonna dive into what we have going on because, yeah, absolutely mind blowing. I mean, it impacted me as much as I was there to teach and be impactful. I was impacted. So absolutely amazing. But let's dive into what we got going on. You guys know that on Monday, that is our deluxe pre-market rundown. So we're going over, the week ahead, what's kind of on the slate for us in this upcoming week, as well as our Monday specific news. So what news happened today before market open, as well as kind of laying out the groundwork for the week, because it's so important to set your expectations for the week. That's why we tune into the pre-market rundown, setting your expectations for the whole week and knowing what big economic events are on the calendar, right? What data is being dropped, what earnings are going on. All of that goes in to lay the groundwork of how you approach markets each and every week, right? In terms of your trading plan, your trading strategy, what you expect out of the market. And then that way, if you have the correct expectations, then you have the correct frame of mind to go about attacking markets, right? Or trying to leverage them for your own financial gain. So if you go in and you don't know, let's say, for instance, that we have, the Fed making a decision that week, you don't know that we have big earnings that week, you could be going hard on a week when it's not ideal for you to be going hard and playing around with a lot of money in markets, right? Same thing on the flip side. It could be a great time for you to start being active in markets and you don't know because you don't know what's going on and you don't have those expectations laid out. So Monday pre-market rundown specifically, super important to tune into so that you can get your expectations for the full week. That way, nothing is catching you off guard later on. But let's dive into what we got going on. As always, make sure you throw those ones in the chat, signifying your intention to do what? Get 1% better by the end of the session. That's all you want. That's all you're aiming for, right? Nice, easy, manageable goal that you can accomplish each and every day. So again, it was an honor and a pleasure seeing all you guys here this past weekend. It literally warmed my heart so much. It made my month, and I'm super, super honored and humbled to have everyone there and just to be able to, kind of learn together and grow together and continue to do that, right? Now we're back to the grind with renewed faith, renewed energy, and we're ready to hit it hard. So let's start with the week ahead, right? So in terms of the week ahead here, banks will dominate the headlines again this upcoming week with the earnings and economic calendars light. So overall, we've got, light on data, light on the economic calendar, which means that we'll really be mostly dependent upon, news comes out having to do with banks. The Senate Banking Committee will hold a hearing on bank failures with the witness list, including FDIC Chairman Martin Grunberg, Federal Reserve Vice Chairman Michael Barr, and Treasury Undersecretary Nellie Leong. While some reports indicate stress on bank deposits is less severe than what was implied by the recent price action in bank stocks, the trading around Deutsche Bank, ticker DB, indicates investors are still on a hair trigger. Seeking Alpha contributor Logan Kane has a key breakdown on whether the Deutsche Bank situation should be considered a canary in the coal mine or a sell-off based on irrational fear. Now, let's get into the earnings that we have going on this week. So in terms of earnings, let's see here. We've got Carnival Cruise Lines, ticker CCL. They report today, Monday, March 27th. And then Tuesday, March 28th, we've got Lululemon, we've got McCormick, right? MKC, Walgreens Boot Alliance, ticker WBA. Remember that California, the state of California, is still waging war on Walgreens. So that might be something that shows up, in Walgreens earnings report. It might not as of right now, but it will definitely impact, their outlook moving forward. So I'm interested to see what Walgreens has to say about that. Basically, they decided to take out abortion pills like out of their locations. The state of California was like, we're not having that. We're declaring war on Walgreens. So, that might manifest in terms of Walgreens earnings report this quarter, but there is no guarantee. This is just making sure that you're aware of the news that's going on and you don't say, oh, Walgreens, like I love going to Walgreens. Let me buy some Walgreens calls before earnings. And you sit there not knowing that, a state that has a larger GDP than a number of countries has declared Walgreens, public enemy number one. Micron also has earnings right within that semiconductor sector. Very important to keep an eye on. Earnings spotlight Wednesday, March 29th. RH has earnings, ticker RH. We've also got what else on Thursday? BlackBerry, throwback, and that's really it, right? Not a huge earnings week or a huge amount of things going on in terms of earnings. But let's make sure and check our economic calendar that we've got no super important data that is coming out. So we got Fed. Remember the Fed speaking at 5 p.m. today, so that's not impactful to us. We do get consumer confidence on Tuesday at 10 a.m., so that is something that can impact how we move in terms of price action tomorrow during market periods, right, during market open. So 10 a.m., that consumer confidence data drops. That could be something that causes some type of movement, right, precipitates some type of reaction. We do get GDP numbers, second revision, 8:30 a.m. on Thursday, and we get initial jobless claims at 8:30 a.m. on Thursday as well. So we get employment data. Employment is one of what is now the big eight, right? When we talk about the factors that are shaping how markets are moving, that's interest rates, inflation, employment, COVID, and all of its variants. At this point, the banks collapsing, and this whole issue with fear in the sector of finance, is one of them, as well as the supply chain, COVID and all of its variants, and then the war in Russia, right? Or excuse me, the war in Ukraine. And I think I double listed a few of them. But then that last one is probably the death of globalization, the rise of protectionism, right? So we've got, to summarize them all, inflation, number one, interest rates, number two, employment, number three, COVID and all of its variants, number four, supply chain is number five, right? Number six, we've got that war in Ukraine going on. Number seven, we've got the death of globalization and the rise of protectionism. And then number eight, we've got this bank failure, right? Those are the 8 factors right now that are shaping how markets are moving domestically as well as globally. So make sure that you have the big 8 locked down. Now, in terms of what else we have going on this week, we also get PCE index. So we get inflation data on Friday at 8:30 a.m. That's important, right? Any type of inflation data that we get is important. So inflation data on Friday, jobless claims on Thursday morning, and then we've got on Tuesday morning consumer confidence. So kind of Tuesday, Thursday, Friday is, those are the days where we're getting data that could be impactful for markets. And that pretty much covers the week ahead, right? We covered the earnings, we covered the fact that the banks, of course, are going to be in the spotlight, and we covered any data that's dropping this week. So now we'll move into our Monday specific news. So Bank March Madness continues. First Citizens Bank has agreed to buy Silicon Valley Bank's deposits and loans, confirming an earlier report that surfaced on Sunday night. The purchase of $72 billion in assets will come with a 23% discount of $16.5 billion with a B, while approximately $90 billion in securities and other assets will remain in receivership for disposition by the FDIC. Equity appreciation rights in First Citizens Bank shares common stock with a potential value of up to $500 million will also be received by the FDIC, which entered into a loss share transaction which entered into a loss share transaction with the lender to absorb commercial loan losses and minimize disruptions to the sector. In pre-market trade, FCNCA is up 22% to $714 per share. Press release, the 17 former branches of Silicon Valley Bridge Bank National Association will open as First Citizens Bank and Trust Company on Monday, March 27th, that's today, 2023. Customers of Silicon Valley Bridge Bank and National Associates should continue to use their current branch until they receive notice from First Citizens Bank and Trust Company that systems conversions have been completed to allow full service banking at all of its other branch locations. The FDIC estimates the cost of the failure of SIVB to its deposit insurance fund to be approximately $20 billion. The exact cost will be determined when the FDIC terminates the receivership. So the deal marks the latest chapter of the current global banking crisis, which began on March 10th when Silicon Valley Bank became the biggest U.S. bank failure since the collapse of Lehman Brothers in 2008. Shortly thereafter, Signature Bank, ticker SBNY, failed. Credit Suisse was rescued by UBS, and things are looking rocky for First Republic, ticker FRC, and possibly Deutsche Bank, ticker DB, as investors and analysts alike assess if something deeper is brewing. Deutsche Bank was one of those names that was added over the weekend, right, as we see globally how banks are showing weakness. Bond traders have radically shifted expectations for monetary policy. Deposits have been drained from smaller banks and transferred to big institutions, while policymakers from Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen to Fed Chair Jerome Powell have sought to assure the public about the resilience of the U.S. financial system. So again, big takeaways is that bigger banks are winning through all this. Small regional banks, people are leaving them. They're taking their money to Bank of America, right? Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase. They're taking their money to all the big players that they know have those large cash reserves that we've been talking about, the past few months on the pre-market rundowns, to make sure that they don't have to worry about their bank, spontaneously popping up as insolvent after they thought that everything was okay. So moving on to our next category here, symbiotic relationship. A weekend visit to China by Apple CEO Tim Cook is sparking some investor discussion, especially following his comments at the high-profile China Development Forum. So it looks like Apple's warming back up to China. Quote, Apple and China grew together, so this has been a symbiotic kind of relationship that we've both enjoyed. I'm thrilled to be back in China. It means the world to me, and I feel really privileged to be here. So that's, again, a statement from Apple CEO Tim Cook. Only several days ago, TikTok was grilled over its relationship with China, while Apple has been reportedly looking to diversify its assembly operations, with an estimated 95% of total iPhone supply still coming from the country. As you've been seeing from the past pre-market rundowns, though, they're moving a lot of production to India, right? Foxconn, which is a huge, producer of the components that go into Apple iPhones, right? There were all those riots at the Foxconn factories in China. Foxconn is moving a lot of their production to India. So this might be a way for Tim Cook to go there and still kind of firm up that relationship while they're really still looking to exit China. Hardware tech may also be a reason for Warren Buffett to love Apple, but one analyst dives deeper into another answer to why Apple is Berkshire Hathaway's largest position by far, despite historically eschewing technology stocks. So next headline here, pretty impactful, nukes in Belarus. So Russian President Vladimir Putin has announced his intention to station tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus, comparing the plans to the storage of U.S. warheads in bases across Europe. Again, like, we hear this and we're like, oh my God, Putin is unhinged. Is the man crazy? Yes. Do we have our weapons stationed across all of our NATO ally countries in Europe? Yes. Right? So it's like, it's important to recognize there's two sides to every story. We're like, man, Russia's crazy moving all these nukes everywhere. We have nukes everywhere, right? We have weapons everywhere. So it's really just that thing where, again, you can't expect people to not respond in kind when that is how we are moving. So construction of a storage facility in Belarus will be completed by July, expanding Russia's strikeability along NATO's eastern border that includes Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland. U.S. officials are aware of the reported Russian announcement and will monitor the implications, said Adrian Watson, spokesperson for the National Security Council. We remain committed to the collective defense of the NATO alliance. On Friday, Chicago futures surged on short covering as well as market talk that Russia could halt exports following a sharp drop in global prices in recent weeks. Again, we see that war in Ukraine coming about to really be one of the domineering forces in shaping markets. But right now, this isn't really a reason to be up in arms. Again, the U.S. moves weapons around all the time to all of our defensive allies. That does not mean we're looking to use them. It's just in case, right? It's the same exact thing here. It's just, whenever Russia does anything now, it's scary and it's headlines. But something to keep an eye on, right? Just like this quote said, U.S. officials are aware of the reported Russian announcement and will monitor the implications. But it's just something that makes for a juicy headline. So it's something that's talked about. But I think that important thing is the wheat futures, right? And the fact that Putin at any time could say, hey, listen, the price of wheat is dropping too much. For those who don't know, Ukraine is the breadbasket of Europe. They provide a ton of exports, namely wheat. And, if Russia doesn't allow wheat to travel in and out of those ports, which they control, then Europe starves, right? Europe starves and the price of wheat skyrockets. So, they still have a lot of negotiating power here. Russia does when it comes to really putting a stranglehold on things. So moving to our next topic here, and I want to go back and make sure that we're all good. Okay, cool. All good and not blurry or anything. Our next topic here is switch back to the wrong document. AI in your job. Very important topic. So AI in your job, how will advanced chatbots impact the U.S. workforce? Pretty significantly, according to researchers from the University of Pennsylvania and OpenAI, the group behind the creation of ChatGPT, our best friend, which we talked about this past weekend at the conference. Our findings revealed that around 80% of the U.S. workforce could have at least 10% of their work tasks affected by the introduction of LLMs, which are large language models, while approximately 19% of workers may see at least 50% of their tasks impacted. The projections span all wage levels, with high income or higher income jobs potentially facing greater exposure to LLM capabilities and LLM powered software. Check out some of the most exposed professions here. So they have an article about some of the most exposed professions, but Microsoft-backed OpenAI recently added support for ChatGPT plugins, including ones for Expedia, Kayak.com, Slack, which is ticker CRM, and Shopify. So every major company is integrating AI into the way that they do things. That means this is definitely something that you need to be learning in order to make sure that you are invaluable in the marketplace, right? So that even if they do bring in AI to help streamline things, you've already proved how impactful you are, so that they don't even dream about, cutting your job and getting rid of you. That's the point, right? Control what you can control. Move, with conviction, move with intention. Make sure you're keeping up with the times, and you'll always remain valuable in your respective space. Now, in terms of today's markets and where we are, this is, probably an hour ago. In Asia, we were up in Japan 0.3%, Hong Kong down 1.8%, China down 0.4%, India up 0.2%. The footy in London and Paris, the footy in London up 1%, Paris up 1.2%, Frankfurt up 1.5%, the Dow up 0.6%, S&P up 0.6%, NASDAQ up 0.3%, crude up 1.1%, gold down 1.6%, Bitcoin up 0.8% to 27,932. What else is happening? Bank stresses bring economy closer to recession, said Kashkari, who's a member of the Fed. Aurora Cannabis, ticker ACB, receives non-compliance notice from NASDAQ. Twitter's valuation down to $20 billion while source code is leaked online. Wow. So the source code of Twitter, literally the code, like the computer code that makes up Twitter, I guess was leaked online. Do gasoline stock lows signal a return to high U.S. pump prices? WWE receives millions from McMahon for investigation costs. Outer Banks Murdaugh murders lead Netflix to top streaming ratings. Ethereum is at risk of losing its dominant status in DeFi. Microsoft's chances of closing Activision deal raised at Citi. EV buyers may be pulling back, but Tesla is still running hot. And then lastly, Rocket Lab takes aim at SpaceX with Neutron launch plans. So that will wrap us up here for our pre-market rundown session. Hopefully that wasn't too blurry the whole time. Like I really hope. I came back and saw the camera focusing. Hope it was in focus the majority of the time. But that wraps us up here for our pre-market rundown session on March 27th, 2023. As always, if you got 1% better by the end of the session, make sure to give yourself a pat on the back. Also, reciprocate that love, right? I show up here each and every day for free, going through this, breaking this down, show love to the account, right? The YouTube shorts, right? The pre-market rundowns posted, the Instagram reels, right? If you see them, like, comment, save, send, show love, and we can continue to build each other up here and continue to close the gap between where we are and where we want to be here in this fine year of 2023. Let's make sure that we keep this momentum rolling from WRL, continue to push, continue to execute. Yes, Benjamin, thank you. Love you, right? Everybody pray for Benjamin. He's a warrior right now, warrior in recovery. We're speaking that into existence. So everyone make sure that you send love, send positive vibes that way, and just send positive vibes to everybody within your Velocity family, right? Within your Wealthy Revolution family or Get Some family. Check in on each other, right? Make sure that you're showing love, and we'll all make sure that we can win together. So I appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Have a great rest of the day. See you back here tomorrow morning for our next pre-market rundown session. Have a good one.